Hey everybody, let's talk about people pleasing and how people pleasing can ruin your life. So it's really important to be aware of the symptoms early so that we can make sure we don't dig ourselves too deep of a hole. The first thing to understand, if you're talking to a people pleaser, or maybe this is you, is the seeking of validation. People who want to please have this temperament, have this nature that I want you to like me. I want you to laugh at my jokes. I want you to think of me in a good light. I need you to agree with the things that I say, or I'll change things so that I become likable. Being likable and people pleasing are oftentimes very, very closely linked, as well as conforming, wanting to be a part of a group. I don't want to be ostracized. I don't want to be the odd one out. So if everybody's doing this, I'll do it too so I can fit in. So here's a couple things we need to know. If you're a people pleaser, chances are you're really high in agreeableness. Why? If I start disagreeing, what does that lead to? That leads to conflict. That leads to confrontation. And if we have a conflict, well, then you might like me less. So if you like hip hop music and I'm not a fan, but if I say I don't like it, well, I don't want that to upset you, or I don't want to have a debate or a discussion or something where we're on opposite ends of a topic. So I won't say anything, or I'll just agree with whatever it is that you say in hopes that you'll like me, in hopes that I can fit in, right? Do you see how we're tying in conformity, wanting to be likable, reputation? So when you're really high in agreeableness, when you're a people pleaser, it's hard to say no because you want to please people. You don't want to upset them. Disagreeing leads to confrontation, which means you're less likely to stand up for what you actually believe in versus what can I say so that you see me in this certain way? People pleasers also over apologize because, again, I don't want to offend you. I'm sorry if I did this. And they'll apologize in times where they've done nothing wrong. They oftentimes feel guilty if they prioritize their own needs. So if you're someone who's a people pleaser and your friend says, hey, can you come on over and help me out with something? People who are people pleasers can feel bad saying no and say, oh, well, I already have this other commitment, but my friend's asking this of me. I don't want him to think of me as a bad friend. What would a good friend do? A good friend would say, it's okay, I'm going to cancel my own plans and I'm going to go help my friend out because that's what a good friend does and I don't want to make them upset. And really to bundle this up, if you are a people pleaser, and I say this with a lot of love, chances are you are more dishonest than you would like. You're not as blunt as you would like to be. You're not as direct as you would like to be because you're saving the relationship and your reputation. You want to be likable. So the reason this is a problem in many different perspectives. But the first one that we want to tackle together is that eventually it'll lead to a buildup of resentment and anger. Or this could be annoyance, this could be frustration, this could be sadness. And this anger is directed towards two. One, it's the other person. Why would you ask me of this? Like, I would never ask this of you. Why would you ask me for this favor? Like, why would my boss ask me to stay late? Why would this girl ask me to do this for her? I'll do it, but I'm going to be so angry about it. And I'm going to think about it later tonight. Right? So I'm angry at the world and also angry at myself. Why did I let you do that to me? Why did I say yes when you sent that invitation and now I can't cancel because I don't want to be flaky and I don't want people to say, oh, Daniel's the person you can't count on. So now I'm angry at myself. It was Freud, if I'm not mistaken, who said depression is anger towards the self. And when you're angry at yourself, it's something else. Because if I'm mad at you and you're my coworker, I can go home. But if I'm mad at me, I'm going to be at work. Then I go home and I stare in the mirror and I see myself. Then I go lie in bed and I'm alone with my thoughts. So when we get to a place of resentment and anger and then, not to mention, we build up beliefs about the world. The world is toxic. People will try to take advantage of you. Everybody who I've ever helped has taken advantage of me. And then you sit back and you go, wait a minute, everyone? Is it possible? Sure, it absolutely could be. But there's also another perspective where if everyone you've talked to has taken advantage of you, a part of me is concerned that no matter where you go, your personality is in a way where you're very easy to be taken advantage of. And then you'll agree to do things that you don't actually want to do. So you'll do them, you'll do the favor, but you'll be angry at them and then you'll be angry at yourself. So if you're a people pleaser, what can you do about this? The first thing to do is awareness. If you're aware and you're thinking, you know what, I do agree to things just to be polite that I don't actually enjoy, awesome. Awesome. That's the first step. That is so important. And as long as you're aware that, oh, I have this tendency to please, whether it's supervisors, parents, my girlfriend's parents, the in-laws, as long as you know, you're a huge step forward. And that's amazing. Because now you're not oblivious to it. And the moment you become aware of something, that's when we can slowly nudge ourselves away. The second thing I'd ask you is, if you're a people pleaser, what does validation mean to you? Like, to have somebody nod in agreement, to have somebody laugh at your joke, to have somebody pat you on the back and say, you're a good girl or you're a good guy. What does that mean? And on the flip side, what does disagreement mean to you? What does a harmful or an unhealthy disagreement look like compared to a healthy argument or a healthy disagreement? What's the difference between a loving but differing opinions in a discussion versus two people who are just insulting each other? Do all disagreements end with one party being upset and one person being happy? What does that mean? And chances are, if you're really, really high in agreeableness, conflict is a bad thing. Disagreements are bad things that should be avoided, right? So I better please you or agree with you, because if I don't, well, then I'm going to be responsible for this conflict, for this disagreement, and I don't want any part of that because I do not like confrontation. And if you don't like confrontation, you've got two options. Number one, do that, avoid it, pretend it doesn't exist. Or number two, confront people almost all the time. The reason is, eventually it's going to come out. Eventually the disagreement is going to show up. And if there's a problem, if there's something that you don't like, either it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable in the moment bringing it up, or it's going to be uncomfortable when you're lying in bed thinking, why the hell did I agree to this stupid thing? Not only that, but I know it's really, really surface level, saying someone who is afraid of diving and I just say, just do it. Just close your eyes. Got to be strong. If it came off that way, that was not my intention. But what I really want to emphasize is that we first need to recognize how we view conflict or how we view disagreement. And that if I view disagreement as something bad that needs to be avoided, of course I'm going to please people. Of course I'm going to go out of my way to avoid. But if we can look at disagreements as a healthy, necessary part of our lives, disagreements with our loved ones or even with strangers, and that there are times that we could help somebody, that we could convince somebody of something, or someone's trying to convince us of something, and it's going to might make us a better communicator, and it might broaden our perspective to have disagreements, to have people push back on our ideas. If I have that sort of a view, all of a sudden, disagreements don't become this terrible conflict. They become a road to discovery. They become the path or the journey to an enlightening discussion, to learning something new. A simple way to go about this is practicing honesty. Right? So earlier I said a people pleaser will always emphasize or prioritize conforming, being likable, being agreeable over their own opinion. And a small practice you could do is you could practice answering honestly. Now, here's a couple different ways. You and your friend go and see a movie. Your friend says, this movie sucks, but you actually really enjoyed it. But you're a people pleaser. You're really high in agreeableness, so you don't just want to say, I loved it, it was the greatest movie of all time. So you've got a couple of options. Option number one is you agree with them. Even though you love the movie, you just flat out lie. They say, this movie sucks. So yeah, you're right, it does suck. Option two is you don't say anything, which a lot of people will do, and it's fine. Option three is you say, I actually like the movie. The part that you said was slow, like in the beginning, I thought that did a lot to build the protagonist's character. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And option four is saying, I don't see it that way at all. I completely disagree. But did you see the difference, the subtle difference in number three and number four? Number 3 started with, I actually like, oh, check out this perspective. And number 4 was, I disagree or I reject what you just said. Check this out instead. So there's different ways to disagree. One thing that a psychologist who was a professor of mine used to do with her clients, she'd say, if you want to practice being assertive or being less agreeable, next time you go to a restaurant and they bring you a dish, after about a couple minutes, they're going to come like the waiter or waitress says, how's everything tasting? Don't say it's good. Don't say it's good. Even if it is good. I know this is going to sound really weird, but look at them and go, you know what? This needs a little bit more salt, or this needs a little bit more lime. Can you send this back to the chef? Can we get a little bit more of this, whatever, coconut sauce on here? Whatever it is. And the really important thing was whatever you're asking for, make it be little, right? Don't say, yeah, the dish sucks, make me a new one, right? We don't want to cause problems, but we don't want to say, yeah, I could use more salt, but yeah, there's more salt on the table. Ask for something. Ask them, give them an excuse, turn it back to the kitchen, but let it be so small that it's not it's not going to interfere with like the chef and the kitchen. It's not going to make people roll their eyes. Like, hey, how's everything tasting? I think this could use a little bit more of the sauce. Is there any way we can get this sent back to the kitchen and get just a little extra coconut sauce on this? Hey, thank you very much. So now that's a very real exercise where you're disagreeing with the waiter or the waitress, or because the norm is to say what? Remember, we were talking about conforming. The norm is to say, it's great, it's awesome, or yeah, it's tasting good. Say, no, it's not. And again, you're not being a jerk because you're not getting them to throw out the dish. All you're doing is getting them to add something extra. And then when you do that, little stuff like that can be your sort of domino effect, putting one foot forward in front of the other in becoming more assertive, in being more honest. And by the way, if there's a dish and like you actually don't like something about it, you can say that too. You know, and I'm sure you folks can work something out. But again, if you're a people pleaser and everything that I'm just said terrifies you because that's conflict and that's disagreement, and what if the waitress kicks us out? And what if she says, no, it's not okay, it's going to be awkward? Don't worry about it. Number 1 is self-awareness, and then go on from there. Thanks for listening, everybody. Take care.